no-show again, so we're not gonna.
Are you serious?
Yes, and they confirmed they picked this date. I emailed them today, did not hear back. So, but I confirmed with them last week. So, last time it was snow, and I don't know what it is tonight. So, put it on here.
Okay.
And you know, Susan's moving this, so she's gonna, after you do the flex vote, she's gonna do a motion to amend to move this to the next meeting.
Okay. Okay.
Jim Kevin couldn't come tonight, and since he was a brainchild of it, we thought he was.
Okay.
But I'll just use it.
Okay. Okay.
It's not.
Councilmember Martin Moore.
Just call the meeting to order. He'll get up here.
Well, good evening and welcome to the Federal Way City Council for February 21st, 2017. Our ROTC folks got delayed, so would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, well, thank you for joining us. Under presentations, actually, Councilmember Honda.
Thank you very much. I move to amend the agenda to postpone item 3A, presentation of funds from Oktoberfest to the March 7th, 2017 City Council meeting.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, opposed? All right, matter passes. We'll see him next meeting. All right, now certificates of appointment. Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, Deputy Mayor Burbridge.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to present certificates of appointment for renewal of terms to Lodging Tax Advisory Committee members Joanne Paquette, Rose Eel, and Jenny Vasquez. And I know that Joanne is here. And is Rose here? I'm not sure.
Rose is here.
Rose is here. Good. Well, each of you who is here, please come to the podium for your certificates. Thank you.
Joanne, Rose, would you like to say a few words?
Well, first, thank you for reappointing me. I don't know how many years I've been on this committee, but I absolutely love it. It is such a wonderful opportunity to encourage tourism activities in Federal Way, and we've been able to help several nonprofits do amazing things here. And it'll be even more fantastic when the PAC is open, and I'm sure we'll have events that will be happening there. So thank you.
All right. Rose?
Thank you again for this reappointment to the committee. As Joanne said, I think we've both been on the committee for quite a few years, and we really enjoy it and enjoy helping to bring tourism into Federal Way. So thank you again.
All right, thank you both. Deputy Mayor, looked like you were about to say something.
I just wanted to add my personal appreciation for their dedication to their work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now, Planning Commission, Councilmember Selsky.
Yes, thanks, Mayor Farrell. And I'm also pleased to present certificates of appointment to the Planning Commission for 4 of our citizens who are stepping up or continuing to serve on the Planning Commission. And they are Tim O'Neill, Dawn Meter McCausland, Diana Noble Gulliford, and Dale Couture. So anybody here whose name was read, please step up. All
wow,
4 are
great.
here. There we go.
Please.
I just wanted to thank you for the reappointment, and I would urge all the residents of Federal Way to get involved in the government.
Thank you very much.
Good, thanks.
Thank you.
I'm honored for the appointment and really appreciate the opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to meeting more of the citizens at some of our meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Council and Mayor, for your reappointment to the Planning Commission. This is an area, and Federal Way is probably my most favorite part. I know we have challenges ahead of us, but I feel like we have a really strong Planning Commission. Thank you again.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for the appointment, and I look forward to serving.
All right, thank you all. These commissions or boards are such a wonderful way to get involved and be involved, as the gentleman said about getting involved in local government. Ethics Board, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I have certificates for Sadia Abdullah and for Catherine Hancock. And these are appointments to serve as voting members of the Federal Way Ethics Board for terms to expire June 30th, 2019. So, if either of you, wonderful.
Great.
Mayor Farrell, City Council, residents of Federal Way, I want to say thank you very much for this opportunity to serve, and I look forward to working with you all.
Just say thank you for the opportunity to serve, and I look forward to working with everyone. Thank you.
All right, thank you both. Okay, and Parks and Recreation Committee, Councilmember Kopang.
I have the pleasure of welcoming 3 new members to our Parks and Recreation Commission. Roger Flygar, Stephen Payne, and David Music could join me at the podium. I'd like to hand you your certificates.
All right, gentlemen.
Mayor, City Council, members of the community, my name is Roger Flygar. I'm very happy to be appointed to this commission. My travels around the United States have told me and showed me how important parks and open spaces are in our community. That's something I will focus on and work hard on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'm Steve Payne. Thanks to the mayor and the council for your vote of confidence. I'll look forward to serving on the commission.
All right, thank you both. Okay, boy, that was a lot of commissioners, and I just want to say this represented a great deal of hard work on behalf of the council to interview all these folks and to go through that process, and also all the folks that interviewed and filled out their applications. So thank you, and we appreciate the work you'll do on this community's behalf. Okay, Mayor's emerging issues and report. First, we'll start off. Well, actually, why don't I do my individual report, and then we had promised that Marwan was going to follow up on the capital improvement plan that was referenced. Marwan, are you going to be ready to do, or is that going to be Rick Perez? It'll be one or the other. All right. So let me do my report first, then we'll do that. As there was a public comment at the last council meeting, I'll explain that in just a moment. But the rest of my report. We had in our community the Rotary auction last Saturday. And one of several of my colleagues up here were present at the Rotary auction, and it was just a fantastic event. I'd like to thank Teresa Yvonne for kind of setting up the room. They actually had it down in the Landmark Theater or Convention Center down in Tacoma. In that northern part of Tacoma, but it really represented what I think will be the last time a major event
absolutely needs to occur out of our town, because next year we'll have the Performing Arts and Event Center, which events like this are going to be held. So, but Teresa was there and really helped decorate the place and made it was just a fabulous event and program, and people from all over the community. But the Rotary does, I'm a Kiwanian, as is Councilmember Honda, and as is Councilmember Kopang. And, but I'm going to sing Rotary's praises, because each year what they do is they sponsor a particular project in the city. Last year it was Town Square Park and the Splash Park, and they raised quite a bit of tens of thousands of dollars for our Splash Park at Town Square Park. This year, the project they selected was Bridging a Gap, which they call it the BAG program. And Bridging a Gap is about helping young children in our Federal Way school system who they're on free and reduced lunches already and breakfast. But what that Bridging a Gap does is it sends a backpack home with these children for breaks in the weekends to make sure that the gaps when they're not at school, that they've got meals. And I just would like to just thank, it was Valerie Danforth and Dennis Hulse, Kiwanian, and the Kiwanis was involved in this, and Valerie Danforth's brainchild to really help that. And it just really is, there are so many folks out there, so many children that go hungry. And the goal, and this is just how generous, this is why I'm talking about this tonight. The stated goal was $30,000, and that was going to fund 6 different schools of individuals that they had pre-selected. And they would send these backpacks home alone with these children without any kind of markings on them, so none of the other children would know, just very, protecting the dignity of these children. And then they would bring the plans to bring the backpacks home on Monday or at the end of the holiday. Well, the stated goal of $30,000 was exceeded wildly when they returned with more than $45,000 of money raised. It was really amazing. And so John Curley was the MC, and he's just outside of himself, a lot of fun. But it was just very moving and striking that you had so many people in our community stand up for these kids in need, and I just wanted to share that. I've got a SCORE board meeting tomorrow, and SCORE is the South County Correctional Facility, of which our city owns, and I'm on the executive board. I'll have a board meeting tomorrow, and we talk about the administration of that jail. Which means I usually tell my son in the morning. My son says, "Where are you going today, Dad?" And I said, "Well, this morning I'm going to the jail, but I'm not going to stay there." So anyway, we have these scoreboard meetings. I'll keep you guys apprised of how things are going. We've got the Sound Cities Association, of which I'm a board member. 37 cities, one voice, 1 million people. That's their tagline. I'm on the board. We've got a meeting right after the SCORE meeting. Ribbon cutting with Federal Way licensing will be tomorrow between 5 and 7, and that's right over there by the new location by Billy McHale's. We've got a Valley Communication. I'm the chairman of the 9/11 Valley Communications Board. We've got a meeting next Friday. And we have, last Monday, we had a Korean high school delegation in this very room, and they got a little tour of the facilities and the grounds, so that was fun. Last Wednesday, we had a Good Eggs breakfast put on by our own King County Councilman Pete von Reichbauer, and he has guest speakers, all kinds of great speakers. And the head or the general manager of King County Transportation, Rob Gannon, came and spoke to the group, and that rotates down from Auburn and Federal Way. This one was in Auburn with many regional leaders, and the deputy of the mayor, my son, got to come with me, and so that was a lot of fun to hear about service with our metro partners. Okay, now let's move on to the update on the Capital Improvement Plan, Project 14-1, Weyerhaeuser and 336th. Rick Perez, our city traffic engineer, will talk about that project as it was brought up at the last meeting. Rick?
Thank you. So first off, I want to talk about how we identify projects in general. We have what we call a travel demand model, which is used to generate forecasts. We put in land use forecasts, and it spits out the traffic numbers and distributes it to the roadway network. And so that's a very heavily used tool in this process. We also look at what's consistent with what's in the comprehensive plan. We also prioritize based on collision data and capacity analysis to determine what those needs are going to be. So once a need is identified, then a project to address that need is placed on the capital improvement plan for prioritization. This is a 20-year planning horizon or more, and it is not a financially constrained list. In other words, it's kind of a wish list. Then the projects that rank highly and have funding potential are considered for listing on the 6-year transportation improvement plan. That's a 6-year horizon, and it does need to be financially constrained. In other words, we have to have a reasonable chance of funding that within the 6 years. So, and then once we get funding for it, the project is constructed. So this project was originally identified in the 1998 comprehensive plan. And so here's a blow-up of that map. And this shows basically every planned street cross-section. And so the key for this is Weyerhaeuser Way between 336th down to Highway 18, and that calls it cross-section G, which is 5-lane street plus bike lanes, and that map was from 1998. How do we come up with 5 lanes? Well, this is where the travel demand model comes into place, and this is actually a fax of what I had, what records I could find. But the important thing is the highest numbers here and this is out of the travel demand model. So here's 336th, Weyerhaeuser Way. This is actually 33rd place. So you see 949 northbound coming off of 33rd and 878 southbound coming off of 336th. And those numbers are important because this is also in the comprehensive plan. We'll use directional design hourly volume forecast to come up with what is the appropriate number of lanes. And so the range of 825 to 1250 calls for the 5-lane cross-section. So now, a little bit of history there. In 2000, Quadrant, which is Weyerhaeuser's development subsidiary at the time, had developed Parcel 3, and that's the parcel north of Highway 18, east of Weyerhaeuser Way. And as part of that development, they constructed Weyerhaeuser Way to the current cross-section between Highway 18 and the corporate headquarters driveway. So it was basically a 5-lane cross-section. It narrowed down to 4 to reduce the right-of-way impacts on Weyerhaeuser's property, and constructed the roundabout at 33rd place. And then in 2003, the city and Weyerhaeuser jointly funded the roundabout at 336th Street, which was actually designed to handle a 2-lane approach and exit on every approach. As a result of those improvements, there have been no capacity or safety concerns that have risen to the point of urgency where we needed to move that project forward. But if a development came along that would trigger the need for that development could be required to construct that project. So, question was, okay, why is it project number 1401? And because in our capital improvement plan, the list of projects, the first 2 digits show the year that project was added to the CIP. So what happened there was essentially an oversight, where we had identified the need for the cross-section, but that particular segment wasn't added to the CIP. We didn't discover that until we started preparing for the 2015 comprehensive plan update. And so in recognition that planned cross-section was already there, the project was added to the CIP in 2014. So in summary, the initial need for the project was identified in 1998. Adjacent completed projects put off the need for the project, and so then we added it to the CIP in 2014 to reflect that forecasted need consistent with the 98 comp plan. So I kind of blew through that a little bit quickly, but happy to answer any questions.
All right. And again, this came up as a result of a question from, thank you very much for that thorough background. Council, any questions on that? Okay, and we may have some follow-up when the public has time to ask questions. Okay. All right, thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Okay, Now for the most important part of the evening, let's move on to public comment or citizen comment. Everybody has 3 minutes. Everybody knows the rules. Let's go ahead and get started. As you know, as my practice, I'll list off the first couple of names, and we'll just go from there. Bob Woolley, and then Brian Cleary, and Susie Ashenbrunner. And if you actually have, I don't see if anybody 5 minutes yet, but if you've got 5 minutes, you may want to remind me of that right before you get started. All right, Mr. Woolley.
My name is Bob Woolley. I'm a Lake Jean resident and a citizen of Federal Way. Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council, citizens, and the Boy Scouts of Federal Way. This is a good day. I first appeared at this podium a year and 4 days ago. I brought an issue to the City Council. It was adopted by the city, and we've been working on it for a year. Yarden, sitting in the middle of the room, engaged with me last month. It's been a pleasure working with an open-minded, challenging individual, and I really appreciate the engagement that we've had. We shared our culture today. We had lunch together. Yarden is a practicing Jew. I had chili at Wendy's and he ate my crackers. And we had dessert with 2 pieces of bubble gum that he could chew. Thank you.
You broke bread.
A message to the Boy Scouts: stay on task and you will accomplish something. Stay on task and you will do good things. Yarden told me that he started on the 5th of December with 2 projects, Lake Jean and the humongous Warehouser project. He's about to close down one of his projects, but he told me today he has 5 more. Updates. Y'all, some of you know that I'm involved in several litigations. I have a litigation with the DOE for a permit for Lake Jean. It was denied by DOE. I appealed it. It was denied by the hearing board. That gave me the opportunity to appeal it to the King County Superior Court. Last Friday at 2:32, I filed my appeal. At 4:04, Judge Schubert, King County Court, issued some rulings. And the second litigation, he allowed the residents to pursue a reconsideration of his original motion, and he put the club on defense.
Stephanie, would you add 2 minutes? He essentially speaks for more than 5 people.
He also enjoined DOE, the Department of Ecology, permit access as a defendant in the lawsuit that's ongoing. Those are good things. Mr. Mayor, the residents on Lake Jean are awaiting action by the city. I know Yarden is close, but time is ticking, and March is the month for action by the city and the city council. That is what we're looking forward to. And again, I hope that Lake Jean is on the blue sheet sometime next month as an agenda item for action with the Federal Way City Council. If so, I will wear my Federal Way blue hat to the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. And Brian, before we get started on your comments, Bob, just to respond real quickly, I want to let you know, we are going to, Yarden is actually taking this massive amount of information that he has accumulated with pending litigation, the science involved. It's a multi-pronged approach, and sitting down with the folks that live around the lake, sitting down with the folks that are with the Twin Lakes Golf and Country Club, and then he will be providing a report, and then we'll have a special study session up for the council and talk about this. So I will be expecting to see that blue hat on display, Mr. Woolley. Thank you very much. Councilmember Honda.
Is there a time that the lake needs to be treated? Is it springtime or summertime to avoid the algae?
Good question.
There are some logistical constraints that we have. If it's going to be treated this summer, there's some logistical deadlines that we have to
I was just wondering.
Part of this has to do with there is ongoing litigation. As Mr. Woolley has said, we have with hundreds and hundreds of pages of documents. Sorry, Brian. That's okay. A second. We've got hundreds of pages of documents on that litigation, and some of this is actually cantering toward possible resolution, depending on what side you're on. What Mr. Woolley has said is absolutely right. They actually granted the motion for reconsideration. It's actually a little complicated. We're going to need a little bit of time to get into it, but it's very complicated. It's exactly, we're just so fortunate to have Yarden involved. We'll take a look at those timelines and when they can, but it's a little bit like negotiating a multilateral treaty. But we'll lay it all out for everybody, and we'll be mindful of those timeframes. With that, Brian, thank you for your patience.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, Council, my name's Brian Cleary. I'm a 55-year resident of Federal Way. I have been to every council meeting since September, since the Weyerhaeuser situation occurred. I didn't make it last week, and I just want to make a couple of comments about a few things that were said last week. One of them, Mr. Mesner had got up and he was talking about a couple of people that had approached him at a Federal Way establishment, I believe it was Poverty Bay, and that he had said that he thought these folks were going to assault him. I think that was really out of line to say that. I've talked with Mr. Mesmer many times. He's been very cordial to me. I think I've been to him, and I think everyone that's involved in the Save Weyerhaeuser campus has been the same thing. So I think that was out of line. I talked with an awful lot of people because my wife Julie is very involved, as you know, in this, and not one person has ever said anything that they want a piece of Mr. Mesmer or anything. So I just wanted to kind of get that out. I don't think that was a fair statement to put in front of the entire council and the community. The other statement that he made was that trucks on Weyerhaeuser Way, they're not allowed to go there. There's a lot of things that we're not allowed to do. We're not allowed to speed, jaywalk, run red lights, burglarize people's homes. But I would ask the chief of police, those things are happening. So that's going to happen on Weyerhaeuser Way also. There's no way that can be controlled. And I would invite the council to take a trip any weekday to Fife and sit through 5 lights getting on any street down there trying to get on Port Tacoma Road. You end up, and I go down there because I go to Sportco, and you'll sit on the shoulder of the road down there through 5 lights waiting for someone to rear end you as they're texting on their phone coming down I-5. So I saw the traffic, I saw the, what he's talking about on the traffic right now, 5 lanes. 5 lanes is not going to cure the fact that people are going to be driving down 33rd Place. These guys, I'm out on the road all day long, and having that type of truck traffic there. I was out on Highway 18 today at 3 o'clock. The place was a mess. So anyway, I just wanted to make those statements. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. All right, Susie Q. Aschenbrenner. And then Dick Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor and council members and residents, especially senior citizens. Okay, I'm a resident at Mitchell Place, lovely, lovely apartment building. But we have an ongoing problem with a homeless camp behind our parking lot. My car was broke into last Wednesday night. Things were taken, but one of the residents there saw it happen, said, "Drop it." And they dropped all my stuff out back in the woods, and 3 officers responded. Officer Ellis took a very comprehensive and concerned report, and it's really becoming a nuisance. I feel for the homeless. I help them every way I can. And if there's any committee or subcommittee or anything you can recommend that I can attend and join, I will be happy to. But it's a constant flow because we have no fence. And Mitchell Place says we can't afford a fence. Well, we need a fence. Just this evening when I was leaving, a guy on a bicycle rode through our parking lot and then dismounted from the bike and went into the woods. They walk there all hours at night. They hang out in our garbage area. And one woman has had her car broken into repeatedly. There's nothing left to steal. But I had been doing some cleaning activity for someone, and they took my broom, my dustpan, I mean, just anything and everything. And I'm thinking, come on, that's my stuff. But my concern is I want to know what it's going to take to have that homeless camp removed. They're trespassing. It's private property. They're doing anything and everything back there. The drugs, obviously, but it's unsanitary, and it frightens a lot of the residents where I live. Some are not as alert or agile as I am, and they're frightened. When they learned of this, they just got frightened. There's homeless people back there? Well, yeah, look around. And we want them gone. I don't know what the city can do or will not do. I don't know. But that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you.
All right.
Jim?
Thank you, Susie. Chief, Deanie?
I just wanted to say thank you, Susie, for bringing that to our attention. I was the executive director of the Multi-Service Center, and Mitchell Place was my very first housing project. And it's a beautiful place, and it has gorgeous rooms because the people told us what they wanted, and we actually listened to what you said. And I am concerned, though. It is dark down there, and there is a lot of stuff. So if there's anything, if the police can do a couple of drop-bys or something to get those homeless people. I know the homeless people need some place, but we need to protect the safety of everybody.
That's right.
Thank you.
And thank you, Councilmember Duclos. And Susie, just to let you know, so we started a homeless services and encampment initiative, and we've have our Deputy Chief of Police, Stephen Neal. And what I'll ask our chief to, I've got your contact information right here, and do we have your phone? We've got your phone number. What I'll do is we'll have Deputy Chief Neal, who heads up that task force, get in touch with you, ascertain whether that's private property, city property. If it's city property, we will take action with regard to removal of the camp. If it's private property, code enforcement, Mr. Brian Davis, and his staff will address that by contacting the landowner. So we'll be in touch tomorrow. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, Mr. Simmons, and then Lori Sechrist, and then Dan Sechrist, and Darren Nash. Sir?
Mayor and City Council, my name is Dick Simmons, and my wife and I live in Dumas Bay, apart from the Weyerhaeuser Group, 4 miles away. But we do wish to express our support for their group. We think of ourselves in a sense is we wouldn't want to see our home values go down or our quality of life go down. And so we do have a lot of empathy and we really wish to support them. One of the things that would affect us would be the transportation around that area. It's kind of an overtaxed transportation area anyway. And we don't feel that making an industrial area out of Weyerhaeuser would bring in sort of lower income jobs and really wouldn't help the city that much. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Lori Sechrist, then Dan Sechrist, and Darren Nash.
So Mayor, Deputy Mayor, City Council, I should probably take this out of my mouth, huh? Okay. So this morning I had the opportunity to be part of a team of Save Weyerhaeuser campus members to speak in front of the King County Transportation, Economy, and Environment Committee. We spoke on the importance and value of the former Weyerhaeuser campus has to this region and to support the motion being brought forward by our very own District 30 Council Member Peter von Reichbauer to prioritize the use of the CFT funds for acquisition of the property on the former Weyerhaeuser campus. I was very pleased to hear from many of the sitting council members from other districts that they viewed this property as a regional treasure. One said that it is a jewel of King County that must be protected. Another member said he remembered as a child visiting Weyerhaeuser and receiving thousands of young tree saplings that he and his family then had the hard work of planting. And one said he appreciated the fact that the Weyerhaeuser campus, with its trails, the rhododendron and bonsai gardens, brings more people to the area than just the water park. PVR shared a quote from the George Weyerhaeuser letter stating that he never imagined the property would be used for an industrial development or large warehouses. Instead, his vision was to create a campus that took advantage of the site's natural merits with forests and meadows to shelter wildlife, provide scenic vistas, and include walking trails so the natural environment could be enjoyed by employees as well as community members. This is a shared vision by many. PVR did not take credit for bringing the issue to the forefront of the council. He stated it was because of the hard work and the dedication and the passion of the Save Weyerhaeuser campus members that have risen to the occasion to help protect, preserve, and maintain this unique piece of land. The multifaceted dynamics of the watershed, the Hylebros, and the passive recreation enjoyed for the past 50 years and protected previously by the Weyerhaeuser Company must be continued to be enjoyed for the many generations to follow. He is committed to being on our team and helping us in any way. The motion providing the direction to the Conservation Futures Citizens Oversight Committee on a priority for allocating Conservation Futures tax levy funds in and around the North Lake Hylebros watershed was read, and I'm happy to report that it was unanimously passed. The King County will hear the motion, the King County Council will hear the entire motion on March 1st to recommend the Oversight Committee to prioritize this important project, and I'm confident it too will pass the General Council. Now it's up to you, Federal Way City Council members, to pass the motion to authorize the city's application for the King County Conservation Futures Funds. This will ensure the $1 million surface water management funds are matched to provide the $2 million of seed money to move this project on to the next phase in preserving this iconic property. We look forward to the next motions to move forward with partnering with Forterra and hope that over the next few meetings we can bring back to the city more news of other state funding to help our combined efforts. So I want to thank Yarden again for his active participation he's had with our group, and to thank Tom with IRG, who once again has opened the line of communication with the city, allowing access to the property for the appraisals and tours. I promise we will continue to honor this land with care and respect and the dignity that it deserves. Thank you.
Dan. Here I go. Mayor, council members, neighbors, and friends, my name is Dan Seacrest. Yes, everybody knows my beautiful wife, Lori, president of the Save Weyerhaeuser campus. They call me First Dude. I'm here tonight to state some facts about traffic in our area. 2 weeks ago, in the article in the Tacoma News Tribune, reported the findings collected by the American Transportation Institute that monitors the top 250 worst spaces in the nation, worst traffic spots in the nation. The GPS data collected by the Washington State has 9 of that top 250. California has 7 in the entire state, with only 2 in the LA area. Yes, LA has less traffic congestion than we do. The Puget Sound area has 4 of the top 20 in the nation. Number 7, Auburn, Highway 18 at 167, the bottom of the hill.
Number 18, Federal Way, Highway 18 at I-5, the top of the hill. The top of the Highway 18 and I-5, the study shows traffic slows from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m., and then again from 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. in the evening. That pretty much covers the daylight hours. Is the answer to cut down the trees to clean the air, to build warehouses in critical habitat areas, to add hundreds of trucks to the congestion? Is that being responsible? My question to the council is, you part of the problem or part of the solution? I'm done. Thank you.
Darren Nash, and then Tom Messmer, and then I'll have to read that in a minute. Okay, please.
Hello, my name's Darren Nash. My wife, Tashana, you're probably familiar with her. She's been up here every chance she gets, trying to do what's best, what she thinks is best, what most of the people in this room thinks best for Federal Way, for the future. I've been thinking for 10 days what I wanted to say when I came up here, and I've gone through all the things that all the people have come up here before to say, and I couldn't come up with anything specific because everybody's spoken so eloquently about traffic, and I mean, we know that's not going to be good. And yesterday, I was taking my 9-year-old daughter to a birthday party down First Avenue south of 356th. And there's a new development going in over there. You are all aware of that. But we hadn't been there since they took out all the trees. And when we were driving down the road, my 9-year-old daughter said, "Daddy, that makes me sad." And I said, facetiously, but she didn't know that because she was 9, I said, "Oh, honey, you can't stop progress." And I have been haunted by those words since then. The idea of progress for some people, whether it be profit, whether it be tax revenue, all things that are a foundation of this country, things that make this country great, the idea that a company can go out and make profit and do good things for a certain number of people in the community, then the other thing that makes this country great is that we, as citizens, have the opportunity to elect people to represent us, to be a liaison between business, between the citizenry, I was working on that, didn't get that good either. And quite honestly, Tashana and I were talking about a month ago, we're pretty impressed with the group that we have here. And I, certainly I know Tashana, we want to thank you for what you guys do. And to a certain extent, you know, we want to thank people like Tom and people out there making this country great. And, but more than anything, I want to thank the people who are part of the Save Weyerhaeuser group. It means a lot to us. Tashana and I are going to raise our kids here. We're not going anywhere. We've already had one group of friends move away. We have another group of friends that are thinking about leaving. This has already affected us, and the trees haven't even come down yet. Okay, we just ask that you take some time to make sure once the trees are gone, they're not coming back. Thank you.
Tom Messmer? Okay. Is this Gretchen Blanchard? There you go. And then Richard Pearson, and then Cindy Flanagan.
Mayor, council members, I'm Gretchen Blanchard. I've been here for 28 years. I've missed a few meetings, so maybe I'm behind the time, but I had heard recently that the University of Washington was possibly wanting to put in a satellite campus here. And I thought that the Weyerhaeuser building would be a perfect fit for that. Has anyone considered it? That's all.
All right, thank you. Gretchen, what we did is we signed a memorandum of understanding that encompassed the University of Washington, Federal Way Public Schools, obviously the city, and Highline. And the idea, what we've been talking about is placing it in downtown, but we are open to the idea of having it at that location. It's just that's a massive location, and what we're talking about right now, like a branch or a satellite campus of this nature, will start off fairly small and then gradually, get bigger and bigger, just like University of Washington Tacoma did. But I certainly think we've heard a lot of that.
I thought it would be a perfect spot. The parking's perfect. There'd be room for offices, classrooms, study rooms.
Right.
And a chance to grow.
That's right. I think it's a great idea, and we'll definitely, what we're going to be doing is starting very shortly. I was just in contact with the chancellor for UW Tacoma, is 2 working groups. One to be working on in the next, before the next legislative session, before we seek budget money, is one to talk about locale, the other to talk about offerings or class offerings. And those 2 committees of the different entities that signed the MOU are going to be working toward that. So that's something that we're working on right now. So we'll definitely consider this site.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Richard Pearson, and then Cindy Flanagan. And then I'll be at a pink sheet, so if anybody else wants to speak, please fill out a pink sheet. Mr. Pearson.
Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor Burbidge, City Council, city staff, ladies and gentlemen. It is with much anticipation that I address you this evening relative to your agenda item 5H, authorization to apply for fiscal year 2018 King County Conservation Future Funds for the acquisition of lands in the East Hylobos watershed, including the west side of North Lake. The Land Use and Transportation Council Subcommittee approved this action at their meeting on February 7th. I trust the full council will now give it their wholehearted support. Relative to support for this effort, I too am pleased to report that the Federal Way application for the above East Hylobos North Lake watershed acquisition has an excellent possibility of obtaining a high priority assigned to it as a result of King County Councilperson member Peter von Reichbauer's movement of a resolution to do so through the King County Transportation, Economy, and Environmental Committee this morning. We anticipate full King County approval of a priority for our project at their meeting next Monday, March 27th. The Conservation Committee of our Save Weyerhaeuser Campus group has met with most of you to elaborate upon the environmental and open space attributes of the property on the west side of North Lake, the headwaters of the East Hylobos drainage. We appreciate the time you have spent with us in your demanding schedules and the openness of your communications. We also appreciate the commitment of the mayor in this effort and his assignment of Senior Policy Advisor Yarden Weidenfeld to assist in this effort, as well as city staff responsible for the details relative to the effort. Your actions tonight are the beginning of a once-in-a-generation first step in preservation of this legacy property for perpetuity. If you have any questions or suggestions, we'd like to talk about them. We remain committed to this project and others on the former Weyerhaeuser headquarters site and remain available for your consultation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Cindy, did you want, I see you've got a number, 5 minutes?
I have 5. It'll
Right,
probably
okay.
be less, but I need to breathe a little bit.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cindy Flanagan, and I'm from the Rainier Audubon Society. And for the past 5 months, our group has been working in coalition with the Save Weyerhaeuser Campus team to try to conserve the critical areas on the former Weyerhaeuser campus, the North Lake Hylobos watershed, North Lake shoreline, the rhododendron species botanical garden, the Pacific Bonsai Museum, and the trails for connectivity. I would like to thank all of the city council members and the city staff for taking time to meet with our team to discuss our concerns, to learn about what makes the campus so special, and of course, to discuss our Conservancy vision. Our coalition has also met with the King County and state governments, and we are making strides. Every county council member, every state representative, every staffer with whom we've talked speaks fondly of the unique nature and character of the campus and recognizes the importance of conserving critical areas of the campus so that it can be enjoyed by residents of the region and visitors worldwide for generations to come. The 430-acre campus is a regional gem. Light rail transit is coming to South King County, and with it, an increased population density. Federal Way has an opportunity to become a destination city. With the light rail station, hotels, the downtown core, only a stone's throw away from the former Weyerhaeuser campus, we need to think of what will pull people, both residents and tourists, into the community as opposed to just driving or riding by. Retaining public access of the North Lake shoreline, anchoring the Rhodey and Bonsai Gardens, and having connective trails would help to create a regional open space area that could have the worldly significance of a Stanley Park like in Vancouver, BC, Canada. World-class attractions, a healthy watershed, urban forest trails, diverse wildlife habitat, waterfront access, incredible recreation opportunities, beauty in nature, and most importantly, a sense of place. Tonight's consent agenda, item 5H that you are voting on, should the City Council authorize swim staff to apply for the fiscal year 2018 King County Conservation Future Funds, is an historic first step in anchoring funding for conservation of this regional gem. I hope each of you will embrace the vote with an emphatic yes. I encourage all of us to think big, or even better, to think bigger, so that our team can design an incredible funding strategy of government, non-government organization, and private dollars so that we can acquire as much of this 430-acre regional gem that we all love so dearly. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Okay, that's the last pink sheet I have. Is there anybody else who'd like to talk? All right, come on up and we'll get the sheet later.
I gave Cindy part of my time, so I'll be really short. I didn't use my full 5 minutes. Okay, so I'm Jean Perrietti. I don't get up here to speak often. There were two things I wanted to say. One was that I really appreciate the opportunity for us to provide input to the swim staff for the Conservation Futures Grant. So we appreciate that. The other thing is, I need some of Cindy's breathing too. I wasn't here last meeting, but I hear that there were some information about the small numbers of people that are interested in this. So I just thought, in the interest of balance, I would give you some numbers from, from our website and our Facebook page. So we have 500 people in our Facebook group. We have 500 people on our mailing list, and whenever we send something out with click-throughs, we get at least half the people that click through, and that's pretty high, especially for nonprofits. We have more than 1,300 people signed our online petition to save the campus. And since we put the website, the new website up in September, we've had 3,500 visitors and 10,400 hits. So I think that's pretty good and something to keep in mind. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, anyone else? That was good. We'll get a pink sheet later. Okay, now moving on to the consent agenda. These items have already gone through committee and can be, all of the items can be voted on at one time, unless a particular council member would want to pull an item for separate consideration. So I'll go ahead and read each one of them and then ask the council if that is the case. All right, item 5. A, minutes for the February 7, 2017 regular and special meeting. Item B, agreement with Public Health, Seattle, King County to provide distracted driving enforcement funding. Item C, the Humane Society for Tacoma and Pierce County, agreement for shelter and related services. Item D, Henderson Partners LLC retainage release. Item E, Arts Commission 2017 work plan. Item F, Resolution 2017 fee schedule amendment. Item G, ILA with school district for Waterworks grant-funded curriculum development. Item H, authorization to apply for fiscal year 2018 King County Conservation Futures Funds. Item I, Marine Hill Stormwater Conveyance System Repair Phase 2 bid award. Item J, South 356th Street Pacific Highway South to Enchanted Parkway Improvement Project bid award. And item K, Revised Transportation CIP Capital Improvement Plan prioritization criteria. Council, before I seek a motion, is there anyone that would want to pull an item for separate consideration? All right, hearing none, Deputy Mayor Burbidge, do you have a motion?
I do, thank you. I move approval of items A through K on the consent agenda. Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The matter passes unanimously. All right. I think all of us up here would unanimously also state that the Weyerhaeuser, the North Lake crowd, the Weyerhaeuser crowd is a model for civic involvement. Yep. And it really is truly, I've got a picture in my in the mayor's office that was a gift from my wife for the very first time I got elected to city council. And it's it's called Freedom of Speech by Norman Rockwell. And it's back there, and it's hung in my city council offices and now in my mayor's office. And it really is, I think, emblematic of what's happening in our community, thanks to your efforts. It's a model of civic engagement and in belief in the process. So thank you very much. I think we all believe that. Okay, public hearing. Item A, 2017-22 Transportation Improvement Plan, TIP. I'll open the public hearing. First, we'll have a staff report from Rick Perez, our city traffic engineer. Then we'll have citizen comment, 3 minutes each, and then council discussion. Mr. Perez.
Good evening again. And so we are here to discuss whether the council should approve the proposed amendments to the 2017-22 Transportation Improvement Plan. So the reason for this is that the city was awarded 2 grants for projects that were not on the current TIP. And so this amendment is proposed to expedite those projects instead of waiting until July for the annual TIP adoption. There were a few minor housekeeping issues that were included. So this map shows the general distribution, and I will point out the 2 new, one of the new projects is on Military Road at 298th. The other one is actually encompasses a broader area, as I'll describe. So a couple of projects that are suggested to be removed they were completed in previous years, and so they can come off now. The 288th Street Preservation Project on Military Road, or South 288 from Military Road to I-5, and the 324th Preservation Project from 99 to South 322nd Street. There were no expenditures after 2015, so we can take those off. Another project which we would have liked to fund, but was contingent on a grant award that we did not receive, and that was on 26th Avenue Southwest, a Safe Routes to School project from Southwest 327th Street to Southwest 330th Street. So the modified project is the citywide adaptive traffic control system, and we got a grant earlier for what we called Phase 1, which is 320th and the city center area, and we submitted a second grant from another funding source, and were awarded to extend that down 99 to the south end and include 348th and Enchanted Parkway. And then, as I mentioned, the new project at Military Road and South 298th Street, constructing a compact roundabout at that location. So, with that, the options considered. One is to approve the resolution adopting the amended 2017 to 22 Transportation Improvement Plan and Arterial Street Improvement Plan as presented tonight, or do not approve the resolution and provide direction to staff. And the mayor's recommendation is option 1, to approve the resolution. Happy to answer any questions at this point.
I'll say that again. Council, any questions? Councilmember Salsky.
Yes, thanks, Mayor Farrell, and thanks for the presentation, Rick. As part of the improvement process, there are times when utility work has to be done under some of our roads. And we have a couple of roads in the city right now that are with that, kind of tearing up impact. And the two I think of all the time are 330th on the top of the hill, and then Hoyt Road. In fact, Hoyt Road, every time my wife and I drive over it, she asks me, when are you going to fix this road? Well, don't have a great answer for that. But what I'm concerned about, or what I'd like to have, is some information on when utility work is done on our roads. How do we resurface that? When does that get phased in? And you don't have to answer this now, maybe a presentation, maybe at the next council meeting after some research is done. We could have some information on that, because those roads are pretty torn up. So if we could ask for that for next meeting, just a quick presentation.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
okay.
I think we could do that.
Great. All right, thank you.
All right, council, any other questions? All right, thank you, Rick. You may stay close. We'll open this up for citizen comment, 3 minutes each. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to ask any questions about the TIP? Okay, hearing none, council, is there any discussion? All right, Councilmember Salsky, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Yes, Mayor, I move to close the public hearing for the 2017 through 2022 Transportation Improvement Plan.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? All right, the hearing is closed. Resolution, adoption of amended 2017 to 2022 Transportation Improvement Plan. Is there a motion?
Yes, I move approval of the amended 2017 through 2022 Transportation Improvement Plan and Arterial Street Improvement Plan as presented.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the matter passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Good job, Rick.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll move on to council business, city rebranding, city branding. Preferred options. So this is postponed from February 7th, and we'll have staff introductions. Steve McNay, Senior Advisor. Steve?
Hello, Mayor, Council. Good evening. I want to open this up for Rusty George. We have Rusty and Jane here from Rusty George Creative. I'm going to kick this over to this team. They've done a great job, and I've given you a preliminary briefing on some of the logos at the retreat. I've had some individual conversations about the logos. But what Rusty and his team are going to get into is why we're at this point, what we've heard from the reports from the community, and what exactly we're trying to target. I would like to point out, though, that individual costs as far as implementation for signage, letterhead, vehicles, police badges, those type of things, Rusty and his team would not have that kind of information, as that would be internal. So once a policy decision is made to move forward with rebranding, then we can begin the implementation of that. But they have a better idea about marketing and exactly what you're looking for, and perhaps you can give some direction this evening on what demographics and what type of outreach you'd like to do. So without further ado, Rusty.
Good evening, City Council members. It's wonderful to see all of you again, and we have really enjoyed working with you. Now it's been a year that it's since the beginning of our contract, and these things take a little bit of time, and so we're used to that. And we think we're really getting close to something that everyone in Federal Way is going to be very happy with. So what do we got here? Are we just going back and forth on this? There you go. Okay. I wanted to kind of first talk and set it up with the justifications behind what we came to, and not necessarily just talk about logos, because it's not really about a logo. It's about an entire brand and a personification of City of Federal Way that is truly and uniquely your position, your unique essence, and how you can promote yourself to the different audiences that you're wanting to get in front of, raise awareness, and get louder in front of. So we had to start by listening to many facets of the community. And there were 3 different facets. The first was the internal, the key stakeholders, the city council, and the people that were really kind of driving it. And it was starting with a kickoff discussion, council questionnaires, and internal interviews. Those were the where we started. And then we heard from your community. Outside interviews, an online survey where we called the good, the bad, and the wacky. We put it up to online surveys, social media, where everybody knows that everybody's got an opinion, and sometimes it's very insightful and very pithy, and sometimes it's like, you need to add more white flowers in the hanging baskets out on 320th in order, because that's what I like, So you had to kind of filter through all those in order to really get some good patterns. These are the people that we talked to in the community. Everybody from the executive director of the Performing Arts and Entertainment Center to the business development and all the public schools, etc., where we wanted to get insights from people, not necessarily the core stakeholders, the people that had their own perceptions, but everyone that had some kind of insight to contribute to this branding project. And what we discovered, and let me also say that this is an extremely abridged version of the insights that we gathered. But this is just to give you an idea and set it up that when we created the brand, we were actually going from the data that we collected. So just to give you an idea. Strengths: great roads, unique variety of retail and eateries. Leadership is engaged, taking initiative and ownership in the future. Schools are under new leadership. And it's the most diverse city in the state. It actually has the most languages in the public schools of any other city in the state. Challenges: traffic, unsafe and substandard, stigmas, disconnect between communities, skepticism about the Performing Arts Center, no real downtown core, the amenities are spread out. And these are just examples of what we heard from people kind of as we were kind of building a case. So what we did then, and those were very, very small examples. There's pages and pages of different people's insights, different angles, et cetera, representations of different demographics. And just to make a long story short, we came up with what we believe to be the awesome problem that we wanted to address in our branding. And that was, in our opinion, that we came back from, all this research was, the City of Federal Way's fragmentation and disconnection prevents it from inspiring businesses and community investment. And that's a stigma, and that's what the perception was. And what we wanted to do was turn it 180 degrees to create a platform to develop this brand where we call it the brand driver. And we actually wanted to say, like the manifesto statement, the City of Federal Way is unifying its communities, businesses, and civics towards one common purpose: movement to the center. And what that means is it was a way that we could talk about the best value and the efficacy of City of Federal Way as you're communicating to what we found to be the 3 major demographics, your 3 major audiences. The first was the Federal Way citizens, inviting all the communities to the conversation of unity, to a conversation of unity and inclusion. And in this brand that we were going to develop, it had to actually speak to all the people that were involved here, not just the core people who had been here for a long time and kind of were very exclusive. It had to be something that everybody could rally around in the community and be proud of, a badge of honor. The second was out-of-state businesses, the second most important audience, like the people from Silicon Valley who are looking to find a place to establish their business in Washington, but they're all looking at Seattle, which is the white-hot spotlight right now. But everybody's kind of, getting pushed out, and they're looking for other alternatives. They want to also say, hey, this is a great place. It's centered between Portland and Seattle. It's in the center, physical center of Western Washington. It makes a lot of sense for these people. So we want to also develop this brand to be very enticing to them. And the third, just as important, but the third priority would be regional businesses in the Northwest. An untapped opportunity awaits directly between the two major state hubs. Yes, that's really important to get out-of-state people, but it's also as equally important to be appealing to the regional businesses as well. So they sit there and go, I hadn't thought of, Federal Way. I was always looking to Everett, or I was always thinking that Kirkland was going to be the place. So we want to have something that's going to be very enticing to all three of these audiences in their own unique way. So from that, we actually did one concept one round where we actually presented to a lot of the city council, and there were 5 different things, 5 different brands that were all completely uniquely different. And one of the criteria that I didn't touch on was that it was a really important criteria that it couldn't look like everybody else's logo out there. And so we did a presentation, and we did have some pretty out of the safe zone of brands, and it really, although it was exciting at first, the consensus was that they were a little bit too far, and they were a little bit, a little uncomfortable to really kind of get people to rally around. So we wanted to kind of dial it back a little bit and kind of approach it from more of a seal, more of a, official city logo. And also in our discovery and in a lot of talking with the council members and the mayor's office, et cetera, it's a very big source of pride to have 320th be, Memorial Way and the big flag, and it's very respectful to the veterans of the community, that as we were kind of, taking this criteria, but then saying, okay, let's kind of go back to the drawing board, let's, try a couple more things, it kept resonating to us to, keep this tagline that we had developed in the first one, centered on opportunity, but then have something that really kind of also personifies Federal Way in more of a literal fashion that is very bold, it's very, Americana, and it's something that could be a source of pride, obviously with the mountain in the middle of it, and, also a nod to the environment, but with the flag, and, something that would be very official and give you good credibility, etc. The second logo, and this is just an example of what it would look like on in an environment. The second logo, we wanted to do something a little bit different, something that was going to tell a story and be something that was kind of a discovery piece upon looking at it. Still talking about centered on opportunity. It's all about movement to the center, and it's all about all facets, that are very important to you, all working together. The top is the mountain, which is then kind of leading into, the environment and, all the things that kind of go into it. It's also maybe people or movement going to the center. The bottom is kind of, talking about all roads lead to, Federal Way, but keeping it something that's an interesting mark, and it's something that nobody else has done, very kind of modern and bold and clear and clean statement, established 1990, and then centered on opportunity. So these are the two. I mean, we had many others that we kind of talked about and went through, but these are the ones that kind of kept rising to the top as something that would be truly and uniquely a step forward, a little bit different, and truly and uniquely yours, but also talking about all those things that need to be without kind of hitting you over the head about being too literal. This is another example of it being in reverse. So these are the two ones that have kind of risen to the top that we believe have they have staying power, they're strong and clean, and, really kind of represent the city the way that we see it going in the future. There's also kind of some talk about, well, what's wrong with the old logo? Can't we put that in a circle? And we hear that a lot, with clients that, just are in any industry, there's always the people that are like, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let's just keep it the way it is. And we would strongly recommend against that because of the fact that, we're talking about future focus. We're talking about saying, hey, we want to do something different. We want to plant our flag in the sand, look forward and communicate to, those audiences that you're trying to communicate to, that, we got something that's a little bit special here and a little bit unique. So those are the logos that we're bringing forward to you today. We also wanted to talk about the price that it was brought up about. The question was brought up about how much is this going to cost to implement? What kind of price range are we going to be looking at? This was a $100,000 budget in order to do this campaign the way that we had originally saw it in the scope. And we have gotten to 40% of that because we had 2 rounds to do. But we still have plenty in the budget to do that implementation, like Steve said, to the signage and the utility vehicles and all those different things. It would just have to depend on your ambition about how much you want to do. I mean, King County took 10 years to rebrand and phase it in. Many brands that we work with in the industrial space, they have trucks and stuff like that. They do it in a very tiered system, a very methodical and systematic approach. It's not like you're going to want to do it in 1 month. That's a nightmare. So those are we would set it up with the templates that are going to be necessary to make your utilities people or maintenance people or whoever need to be doing that be able to roll it out very efficiently. The other question would be about the actual promotion of not only a logo. We're not talking about a logo, we're talking about an entire brand system. And this is just one component of an entire brand system including, the justification of it and the promoting it and pitching it and using it so that it's going to be effective. It can vary greatly as far as what you would want to put into it. Starting with the community, the first audience lens, it would probably be the least expensive because that could be a guerrilla campaign. That could be something that could be a discovery, a fun thing. It could be, working with social media in order to hit, the residents in where they, in the channels that they're at. The second would probably be regional. You would have to start, purchasing media. You can do a good media plan and get a little louder in the region for maybe anything from $40,000 to $100,000, and that can be anything from digital ad buys to actual traditional ad buys, and then going down to other out-of-state businesses that could be anything from $300,000 to $500,000 if you want to get that ambitious. So it really kind of depends. It's kind of like going to a car lot and saying, how much do cars cost? Well, it just really depends on what you want to spend. And those ideas are what we would then come back to you with the remaining budget of our strategy costs to say, this is going to be the most effective way to roll this out.
All right.
So,
all right. Rusty, great job. Thank you very much. Councilmember Honda.
Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight and talking to us.
my pleasure.
How much is left in the budget?
$60,000.
60,000?
It was a little less than $20,000 to do the discovery because it was a lot of surveys and sifting through data, interviewing people, and getting some good insights, and then creating that big discovery piece. And then there was an amount of designing a brand, but then we did a second round upon request. But we were very conscious to keep it within what we had kind of budgeted it for. So we still have a lot of what we believe to be enough budget to execute the brand and get it very far along for you.
Okay. How would we, to get public input and to see what our citizens are thinking? How would we go about doing that?
That was another idea that was floated about saying, hey, why don't we put it on Facebook and let the public decide? It's up to you to do those things, and I would strongly caution against that. I would, at least we're at the point where it's maybe, these three, as opposed to the old logo. I would even strongly just say, let's just keep it to 2 so that people could decide upon it. But then, when you're doing that, you just open yourself up to so many people that are, going to have uneducated opinions. I mean, they're good opinions nevertheless, but they're not. They're going to have opinions based on their own individual subjective opinions. Like, hey, I don't like that blue. It reminds me of my grandmother's bathroom or something. As opposed to understanding that the strategy that we're doing, you're not necessarily your own audience. We're doing this to appeal to other people that are going to be the audience. Obviously, one of the audience segments is this community, but you would have to be prepared to, justify your decision on going with one, because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be hurt because they felt like they didn't get listened to. So we would always recommend that you, instead of opening it up to people, just having one that you then present and doing it in a good, systematic lead up, pre-launch, building up the anticipation, launching it, and then following through on a post-launch so that you're communicating to them about why everything's so valuable rather than allowing them to tell you every single subjective opinion that they have.
All right, so one more question. So if we did what you just suggested, how long would that take? If we were to decide in the next month which one we liked, how long would it take to do the things that you just suggested?
The things as in the rollout and stuff like that. We actually have it on a to the end of this year plan that we would that we have it set up for, that we would do the final execution of the files, create the brand standards, like this is how to use your logo, this is all the ways that you use your logo on the side of cars, etc. We would build that. We would build the the stationery, the signage standards, etc. But then we would also be developing a pre-launch plan of how to set it out to the public relations, how to do it on social media and build the right kind of anticipation before the launch and say this is the launch date, and then through the rest of the year, this is how we would roll it out. We last year were targeting July 5th, I believe it was, the celebration, but then things started happening and we had to put it off. So now we have it for an official launch of January. But we are completely up to however you. If there is the best thing to do is say this is a date that we want to set in stone, and you guys try to figure out how to get it to that. Typically, a rollout would be 3 to 6 months.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Duclos, and then Councilmember Moore.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Rusty, and your team for everything. The minute I saw the first one, that one, I fell in love with it. And the reason goes, I'm going to tell a little story to the folks as well as you. When I first came to this state, I came from New England, Massachusetts, which had a lot of mountains, and then I lived in Chicago, which had no mountains. And then I came out here and I kept hearing about this mountain called Rainier. And I'm going, oh, for God's sakes, it's a mountain. I've seen mountains. And I was living up in Renton and I was working in Seattle. Bad time, but I had to come down to Federal Way because the Foster Care Association headquarters were located here in Federal Way. And I was working in an adoption agency, but we did foster care also. So I was following the directions that I got from my MapQuest and everything, and I'm coming down First Avenue, and I'm going over this little rise in the road, and all of a sudden, this mountain is looming at me, and I almost ran off the road. I was so in awe of it. And then I finally said, now I know what they're talking about. And when I saw this first one with the mountain, we have the best view of the mountain of anybody around, and I think that's something that should identify us. When Federal Way first came out with the current logo and I looked at it, I had no idea what it was. Somebody told me it was a wave. What kind of a wave? I really honestly did not know. This shows strength. It shows dedication to our country and our people. And I think it shows what Federal Way really is. And I really, really like it. So I thank you all for you and your team for the work.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Moore?
Well, how do I follow that, Mr. Mayor? That's well stated, and I appreciate that, Councilmember Duclos. I'm kind of at odds with these two choices, Rusty, and I appreciate all your time and effort and dedication and patience that you spent with the council. I think it's safe to say that we've built a relationship now. But certainly, I think there are concerns that come in my direction, and I do have to say that that I appreciate our citizens and I value our citizens, and I will say that I want our citizens to have input. I hear what you say, but I want buy-in from the community. I want the community to have ownership on this logo and what we do, because this is our community. This is everybody's community in Federal Way. So I think that's the one thing I do want to put in front of my colleagues. And I'd say, with concept one, I think I'd like to see it modified a little bit. Why not? I mean, 320th, we see the beautiful flag that the mayor worked with Bob Kellogg on, and that's something that we identify our community. Why don't we do something like that and put that? I understand there's a red, white, and blue, but something like what we see on 320th, and that people can identify with. And again, I see that this is a red, white, and blue. I get that, but I want to see more of the flag post, that we have in our community on 320th. I guess my other feedback for you is the mountain, I think, looks great. I love it, but I'd like to see it look more like Mount Rainier. Right now, it's a little bit pointy.
And keep in mind, these are concepts. I mean, they're not completely
feedback.
Flushed out, right?
Yeah.
We didn't want to go too far down a rabbit hole. If you're just like, we don't like it, let's move on. So.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and that's just feedback on my end.
Totally. Yeah,
for
it's got work to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love, I will say this, that I love the center and opportunity, Rusty. When you explained that, that made total sense. And I think since the retreat to today, I think you brought that home for me, and that spoke to me quite a bit. And so I love the meaning of that. So that's my 2 cents for my colleagues. Thank you.
All right,
Mr. Mayor.
thank you. Councilmember Selby.
And let me just make a little comment on that. And keep in mind that the hardest part of showing two concepts is always people going, well, what else did you guys do? You just did 2 concepts? That's 40 grand? I could do that. But you got to also understand that it was a process that we went through to where that we did have images of a flag in the middle. The problem with that is it started getting way too clip art looking, and we went round and round about that, and we'd be happy to show you kind of what we came up with. People are always interested in what hit the cutting room floor as opposed to the final, but what we wanted to do is we wanted to also keep it very symbolic as well, and very easy to reproduce and very easy to read. So we ended up going with the background, to have that kind of the subtlety of the flag, but also it's a very powerful element in the symbol, and we have no problem showing our and bringing the community in to and doing it in maybe a vote or whatever, but just be prepared to set yourself up for a lot of people that'll have a lot of opinions. So it's just this is a very subjective industry that we're in. So,
one of the things that I think does owe an added thing is that we almost have a flag city determination because we have the 348th Street that the with all the flags, all the U.S. flags and all the 50 state flags on Campus Drive, right where our King County Aquatic Center is. Thanks to our Seroptimist who did that, how many years ago? Like 28 years, with the folks that were involved with the Seroptimist at that time, Lynn Scow and many people, many additional people. So there's that piece of it as well with the flag. So it's kind of fun to have the flag back there. I'll just throw that in just because we hadn't mentioned it yet. Councilmember Salzman.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Farrell.
And then Councilmember Sepidawson.
Thanks for the presentation, Rusty. I haven't had a chance to work with you or your team yet, but I look forward to that. So, yeah, you know, we really have a lot to be proud of in our city. We really have a lot of great sports success here. We have a lot of great attractions that bring a lot of people to the city. And, of course, we're going to be adding the Performing Arts and Event Center here pretty soon, which will be another thing that will attract people into our area. I really like how you put it that, you know, we're trying to change our entire brand. You know, and we have an image in the region, and we need to improve that, and we all know that, and that's why a few years ago we talked about doing a brand upgrade. And so I like your concept of you know, centered on opportunity, moving toward the center. I really, that spoke to me as soon as you said that this evening in your presentation, so thank you for that. Just like Councilmember Duclos, I'm going to tip my hand as well. I really like the first concept up there. You know, it's bold, it really stands out. It's patriotic, and these days patriotism means a lot to all of us. You know, I think it really is representative of our city, and you know, I think the ring represents solidarity and that movement toward the center that you're talking about. You know, we're trying to create a tight-knit gathering place. We saw some of the comments that people had said, where's the center? Well, you know, we can create the center, and this is representative of that. You know, making this change kind of reminds me of when the Seahawks retired their old logo in 2002 and came up with a new, more aggressive logo. In fact, the Seahawks, and I'm going to read a quote here, what the reason for that change was. It said, "The new Hawk, he's leaner, he's meaner, he's tougher, he's got a little attitude, and I think he's ready to compete in the NFC." And you know, it's not that I want our city to become meaner, but I like the idea of becoming leaner and being able to compete in South King County for, you know, for resources, for people coming here and that kind of thing. And if we have something like that, I think it's a great start that will help achieve those goals. So, yeah, so anyway, I thank you for all the work you and your team have done, and I think you've done great work here, so thank you.
And your reputation precedes you, too. Know you from before. Just another comment about, like, you know, on the cutting room floor, there was a big kind of idea at the beginning was, like, you know, with the Performing Arts Center and Entertainment Center coming in, you know, we wanted, you know, hey, let's make this more about art, and we want to make it more about kind of like a nebulous kind of a look and stuff. And we tried that, and we were kind of proud with that because that was kind of our one of the kind of things that we were our platforms that we're working on. And we just realized that wasn't working at all. That didn't represent you the way that it really needs to. And just like you're saying, it's not about, you know, trying to be something that you're not. You know, you're not Bellevue, you know, and, you know, if you're Federal Way, I mean, we just really keep kind of gravitating towards let's, you know, just own it, the fact that you're proud of, you know, being all these things that we're kind of putting into this. So, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you for
Councilmember Sepidawson.
Okay, thank you. Right now, I think I like the option 2, and one of the reasons is because Federal Way is really prominent, and you see it visibly, clearly, and I like the trees idea. And I have a lot of friends who come and visit, and they're always impressed at how pretty Federal Way is, for all the trees, for all its natural beauty, for Mount Rainier and the water that we're surrounded by. And so I do appreciate what you're saying, and I see that too. And if we could have 2, I think I'd have both. Or if there's a way, because I do love how Federal Way is really there in your face. Centered on opportunity, I like the second option for that one, concept 2. Mm-hmm. I wish, and I don't know if this is even possible, as we're using this logo, it's the centered on opportunity is outside of the logo, right? And so it just seems removed, but I do love what it says. I love the idea. I love the concept. And I don't know how that could be included or part of the logo somehow. I don't know if I'm making sense, but.
And keep in mind that the development of a logo is kind of like a baby, right? You know, you spend all your time, you know, getting the baby, and you finally give birth to it. And that's only the beginning. You know, that's when the real work starts. So keep in mind that it's not it will be part of the logo, but it may also be a part of the brand, not necessarily with the logo. Maybe the logo will be in the center of a page, and then center of the opportunity will be down on the corner or something, or behind it, or maybe like, you know, on a truck or something, you'd have the logo, but centered on opportunity would be the back bumper or something like that. And we haven't really figured that out either. And that's also something we can noodle with. We can say, okay, well, let's maybe try to integrate it a little bit more while we're kind of, you know, doing a couple of little tweaks on the mountain, et cetera, and really dialing it in, you know, getting that, you know, getting it over that goal line there. And then once we do that, it's about developing that campaign and that look and the feel and the style, and taking, you know, photo shoots, you know, at the great parks, or, you know, all these places that are going to start building that essence and that, you know, way that you talk about yourself. So this isn't the final. It's not like, okay, here's your receipt, you know, good luck to you all. You know, we're just getting started.
Yeah.
So
Well, I can go either way, but I do like how Federal Way stands out.
Yeah,
in the
thank you.
second one.
All right, Councilmember Kopech?
Rusty, thanks for your presentation. I think as a council, it's kind of a dichotomy for us in that we have the tyranny of the immediate, we have the things that need to happen now, issues that need to be addressed, and those are certainly important. But there's also the long-term strategic planning that needs to occur. And this is obviously one of those discussions. There is no immediate need for a different logo. So I think that, you know, this is important discussion for us to have, and I certainly embrace it. I think I'm the only member of the council that did not vote to move forward with this project, and it was because I wasn't on the council yet. Okay. But I have no less enthusiasm, I think, for the fact that we need to market our city more effectively. I think where I maybe diverge from you a little bit in the presentation, although I think I see merit in both of those concepts, is that I don't know that we've really effectively marketed our city yet, regardless of the logo. And I know logos are important, and we want to look at resetting, planting our flag, as you said, and then moving forward. And I certainly agree with that. But my argument has been voiced many times, and some of the council have heard it, I think. But it's what you do that makes a big difference. It's not what you necessarily present. You can have a beautiful logo, and if you don't do the things necessary to market yourself, so what? And I think that, you know, part of what you've done, I think, which is very important for the community to understand, is that you've done the legwork of bringing about a focus on how we do move forward. And while I think the logo is part of it, it's not essential in my mind. So that being said, we've spent a substantial amount of money with you, and we're looking at investing more. I see value in what you've presented so far as getting to the center of an opportunity. I think that's very important for us. It reframes who we are as a city, what we represent, where we're located, and what we want to see for our future. And again, those are very important concepts that to incorporate those into a logo, regardless of what it ends up looking at the end, is very important. So I wanted to congratulate you on moving forward on that. As far as the two options here, I could see merit in both. Again, I think I'm in part of a group, or maybe I'm a group of one. I don't know. But I would like to see a concept where we incorporate the current logo. And the reason I say that is not because I'm married to that logo, but I'm looking at secondary costs in that assessment. And one of the things that you have to do with any rebranding is you have to look at how you redo park signs. I would say that in this case, we have park signs that still have the old Federal Way logo on it. So they haven't even made it thus far. So it takes years to do. And so I think as a member of the council, I think it's really incumbent on us to take a look at those other costs. And those really, I think, are internally derived. They're beyond your scope, and I certainly understand that. But again, I think the council actually did talk at the retreat about having some additional options. Right. We talked about, you know, incorporating the logo, and I really would like to see those. I think as a council we did talk about that, and while I understand that there was only so much time to get that done, I think it's important for us to at least have that as an option to discuss internally before we even present it to the community. I think it's for my part, I'd like to see that. So I'll leave it at that. But Rusty, I appreciate your work. I think that there was some great thought that went into both these directions, and I think you've started us on a very good path here. So thank you.
Yeah, and what I was going to say was that you're not in any immediate or emergency need of a new logo, but you are at a precipice where there's an opportunity to have a new brand, and that is the absolute worst thing that any client of ours has ever done, and it has happened fewer than necessary, but. Where they actually just stopped at the logo. And they said, okay, well, thanks for the logo. What are we going to do with it? Well, we don't want to give you any more money, or we don't want to give you that opportunity to push it forward. The thing is about Federal Way, and in our industry, we're being bombarded with all kinds of different municipalities right now. City of Lake Stevens and Everett, Puyallup, Tacoma, they all recognize the opportunity that they need to position themselves as a lucrative place for these companies to come to. And they're all doing the same thing that you are doing right now. I would respectfully say that the worst thing you can do when you're attempting to attract and retain talent, business, new people coming in here that are going to grow the tax base, you don't want to look stagnant. You don't want to look it is a great logo when it was designed in 1997 or 95 or something like that. And it is strong and it is clean. And I would, not fault you for saying, you know what, we just want to kind of hold our budget on that. Let's spend our money on something else. But you do have an opportunity with us to actually take that and start perpetuating and start leveraging it and making it better. But all good thoughts.
I think one of the things that Bob talked about was the Seahawks logo. And it didn't become a chicken or an eagle or a sparrow. It was a different version of the same thing. And it projected all those attributes. So again, I'm just saying we have secondary costs, and those are substantial.
Yep.
And so I would like to see, do a leaner, meaner version of the same thing, but it can be rolled in a much more slowly because it was similar to what we already have. So that's my thought. And, I respect the fact that there's certainly a compelling reason to look at starting fresh, but I would argue we haven't really started marketing our city. I think there's a lot of things that we have not done that you're pointing us toward in the studies that you've done. So what is old to us, updated, would be fresh to other people that have not noticed us in the past. So thanks.
Yeah.
Council, listening to this, I want to let, in response to that, at our retreat, after the retreat, Steve did get the feedback, forwarded over to the person that we have graphically, and had tried some different colors and put a seal around the old logo, and we were kind of working with that. But I think at some point, and I'll let Steve kind of speak to this, but I've got a compromise bill that I'm thinking about. But we did, instead of having somebody do this internally, we did hire somebody to engage in somebody, not just to put our own brand in a circle. That being said, one of the things that we could do is, let me just float this off as a compromise. What about putting option 1, 2, and the third one being this in a medallion, in a square, in a circle, and put the three out to the public, letting them know. What about that?
Well, I was going to suggest we put this out to the public, these here, but if you want to add that one, that's fine. I still don't see that as a wave, though.
Right. So that would be, we could actually have Rusty. We could actually have Rusty sort of spruce it up a bit, put it in just like we did for the 25th anniversary in my mayor's office, and if you remember the podium in the mayor's office, and we put that in a medallion. We put that on all the letterhead. That could be a compromise. We would let everybody know, though, hey, this is the old logo. you know, do you want to stay with that? And that way it would be more reflective. And I also want to, we have gone down this road a bit. I want to make sure we don't stagnate and then just don't go anywhere. Councilmember Moore?
You know, I think the only thing I'll say is that Councilmember Copain is correct. You know, this is something we talked about at the retreat. This is something we'd like to see. And it definitely, I do want to see it more modified. I would concur with you. I want to see it more modified and more fixed up than the medallion.
So what about at the next council meeting? Actually, Deputy Mayor is going to say something, but one of the things is, what about the next council meeting? We, you know, to see if we can spruce up the first one, bring in the third one, and then if you guys approve it, we'll release it out to all major, you know, all media, probably not the Seattle Times, but we'll release it to the Federal Way Mirror. I'll release it on our social media. We'll get it out there. We'll have it in the hard copy of the paper and really ask for input. I know it runs a little bit counter, but it would be better to have more stimulation than to have this effort sort of fall apart for lack of a consensus. Deputy Mayor Burbridge, and then Councilmember Honda.
I very much appreciate the ideas that have been shared by our council members and by the mayor, and thank you very much for your presentation. I think there's value in considering the possibility of using our familiar logo in some fashion, partly because we've had that discussion and there seemed to be substantial interest. I tend to favor, actually, the medallion format. There's a retro quality to it, but it's also very solid. And
It's timeless.
It is, and perhaps it's partly because Federal Way is still a very young city, and I think there's a certain amount of substance represented in that format that appeals to me. I like the fact that it says Federal Way, Washington, including the state with the city, I think is meaningful for us, partly because people don't always recognize that the uniqueness of our city's name indicates actually that we are a city. And saying Federal Way, Washington, I think points that out rather nicely. I'm also very fond of our state, so that works for me. However, I appreciate what Councilmember Lydia Sefadossin had to say about the other option in front of us today. But I like the idea of putting it forward to the news media. I think that makes sense, partly because it's already there now that we've presented it in our open public meeting. And I think for us to do it in a measured way, in a intentional way, has a lot of value to it. So that would be my recommendation at this time as well.
All right, Councilmember Honda.
Thank you. I like the public input idea also. I think that our public needs to buy into this. We've asked them early on when we first started this. It was Kelly, Deanie, and myself were on the committee, and we worked pretty hard. Then your company came along and you did a survey, and you asked the public what they were concerned about, what they liked about Federal Way, and they told you. I'd like to get their input on this. I don't want to stop it just asking them what they liked and didn't like about the city. But I would like to know if we can get some kind of a cost estimate of what it will take to go forward and change things like the signs and stuff, and so that we're not just guessing, and how long we could take, what other cities have done. I'm sure that other cities have done this process. We're not the only one who's ever done this, and what they did and what it took, how long they took, and what steps they did. That would be really helpful in making a final decision.
Okay. All right. Council, I think we've heard from everybody. I threw out a compromise out there to return to the next council meeting with 3 possible. Rusty, is that something you could do? Take our current logo, spruce it up, put it in a, kind of put 3 of them out there, and
The one thing that I would suggest is if we were to do that, we would want to put the justification of the logos and the platform under the development process of like, okay, it's not like, hey, here's 3 logos, which one do you like the best? We want to make sure that we tell the story and give the right rationale so that people are educated to, make that decision as much as possible.
That's fair.
We may have to, we'll have to work with the mayor. We may have to buy an ad in order to be able to do that, because if we choose the words, we likely, but we can work with the mayor about that. Councilmember Kopang?
Frankly, Mayor, I think that it would bring so much readership to the mayor, they should be paying us.
Okay. Is there a motion that reflects that, Deputy Mayor Burbidge?
I'd be happy to cobble a motion together. I move that we ask staff to work with the Rusty George firm to bring back to the council 3 options according to the previously described qualities, and to also provide to the council some estimates of the costs involved, and then further to anticipate the sharing of this material with the media.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. I would just, by clarification's purpose, the media would be our local paper and social media and every outlet that we possibly can. All right, there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the matter passes unanimously. All right. Now, moving on to the Diversity Commission appointment, alternate to voting member, Councilmember Kopang.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to appoint alternate Diversity Commission member Timothy Detweiler to fill the vacant voting position for the term expiring May 31st, 2018.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, matter passes unanimously. All right, council reports. We'll start with Councilmember Sefa Dawson.
Thank you. Earlier today, for those of you who don't know, we had a special study session on funding options, and I just want to encourage the public to view it if you weren't here, because we need money, we need funding, and so this is a conversation we're having. We're really trying to figure out how we can provide services to our citizens and residents without really taxing or putting a huge burden on the city. And so our revenue is just not there to support everything we're doing, and that we want to continue doing. So I just want to encourage people to view it so that you know what the city's really talking about, what the city's doing, and what the city's considering, and give us your input. So I just want to throw that idea out there for people who weren't here at the 5 o'clock meeting or 6 o'clock. 5:30. Oh, 5:30. To go ahead and be a part of this conversation and support us and help us in moving forward in trying to serve and provide the services for our city. And that's it for me.
All right.
Thank you.
Councilmember Salzman.
Okay, thanks, yeah. I was really glad to see so many supporters at the Multi-Service Center Donor Appreciation Dinner last Thursday. It was just packed with donors, and you really can't thank Robin Korak enough and her staff, and then all the supporters for this critical service that we provide to their clients. This is really a critical asset in our city, and it takes a lot of people and a lot of effort and a lot of agencies to support the Multi-Service Center. So I thank all those who do support the Multi-Service Center in whatever way you do in order to, again, provide this critical service for our community. And then the only other thing is the next Land Use and Transportation Committee meeting is scheduled for Monday, the 6th of March at 5 o'clock right here in council chambers. That's it.
All right, Councilmember Honda.
Thank you. Today on Channel 23, which is King County Council's channel, I turned on the TV to see Lori Seacrest talking. And Lori talked, Dick Pearson talked, Cindy Flanagan talked, and Jean Peretti talked about the Weyerhaeuser property and about the conservation efforts to save the 40 acres, the Rhodey Garden, and the bonsai gardens. And I want to thank them. They did an awesome job of representing Federal Way and representing what it is that they're trying to do and working so hard at it. And I'd like to thank our King County Council member, Pete Von Rockbauer, and all the other King County Council members who see how important this piece of property is, that it isn't just a federal way issue, that it's a King County issue and even larger than King County. So that was awesome, and thank you very much for going up there. And, you know, you go up there, you fight traffic, you talk for 2 minutes, pay $20 for parking and talk for 2 minutes, but you rocked it, so awesome. Thank you. A few weeks ago, several council members talked about movies that they saw, so I want to talk about a movie that I saw on Sunday. It was a play called Allegiance, and it was about the internment camps and the Japanese American citizens who lived in the internment camps. And oh, sorry, Dee Dee. Okay. Okay. You know, the times that we're living in are really strange, and we've gone through 2 years of this election, and we've had all sorts of emotions. And but 75 years ago, our country experienced something that affected my husband's families, his mom and his dad's families, forever and ever, and changed their lives. And it was the Executive Order 9066. And it was signed, and it allowed the government to remove and detain those people who could be a threat to our security here in the United States of America. Most of the people that were removed were of Japanese descent. Bruce's family, his mom was around 10 and his dad was around 10, were removed, and they went to the internment camps, and they grew up there. And when I got married to Bruce, I was the first Caucasian in the Honda family. And no one talked about this. None of his grandparents were all alive when we got married. All of his uncles and aunts were alive, all of those people who were in the camps. And they never talked about it, even when they were asked questions about it. It wasn't something that they were comfortable talking about, and they just didn't share their experiences. And then we had kids, and our son had to do a cultural report. If you remember back in the days of federal schools in the 90s, all 8th graders had to do a cultural report on something important to their family. And our son picked the internment camps. And he asked his great uncles and his grandparents, his great grandparents, to write about their experiences, and they started to do that. And it was really, really interesting to read about what they went through. But what struck me as a person and as someone who really admired Bruce had this, his grandma, we called her Hibachan, and she was really an amazing woman. And I would ask her before my kids asked, and she wouldn't talk about the internment camps. And so when Brian did his report, instead of internment camp, he put concentration camp on his paper. And Hibachan and Hichichan were coming from New Jersey to see this. And I thought, oh my gosh, now we're going to be in trouble, because I knew she wouldn't like that. But that's how, after his research as an 8th grader, that's how he saw it. And she wasn't upset with them, which made me feel really good, because I loved my son, and I didn't want my son to upset his great-grandmother. But then she started talking about it. And what she said was that this was her country. She was born in Hawaii on a sugar plantation. And she respected her country, and they did it because they felt it was for the security of the country. And she would never think that this country would do something that wasn't right. The times that we're living in right now are difficult, and we're all scared. You know, there's terrorism out there, there's threats to our safety. And I am Key Club advisor at Federal Way High School. And I have been approached over and over by the staff there and some of the kids there, because they're scared. They're scared for their families, and they're scared for what's going on in our country. And I would just encourage us as a city to reach out to these kids, to tell them that they're okay, that we're going to help them, and that this is America, and we protect each other, and we support each other, and we have our differences, but we've always had our differences, and we're going to do everything we can to support our kids here in Federal Way. So thank you.
All right, Councilmember Cope.
I also had the chance to attend the MSC Donors Appreciation and the Rotary Auction, both which are, I think, a celebration of great events and great people. But I actually left the MSC Donors Appreciation dinner early to go and see an immigration presentation at the library. One of the things I did early on, as an elected official, you get invited to things that you wouldn't necessarily go to. And it wasn't because I wasn't interested, but I was invited to see new citizens sworn in at the library. And that was just such a tremendous honor, and really, I think, reinforced, all the reasons why I ran, and just appreciation for our country, seeing it through the eyes and the words of the newest citizens to come. But my mom actually immigrated from Italy, came through England, and she came as a young woman, and she came to America because of what it represented. And I think about what America is now and what it is then, and while there's certainly more modernity, there are things that have changed. The opportunity that America represents remains very much the same. And in talking to Edna Bastien Winterland, who is a librarian and really deserves a shout out for the effort that she's put into putting together programs such as this immigration presentation, to really understand, once again, through the eyes of immigrants and people working with immigrants, how challenging the system is to work within. And I think I left with a greater appreciation for the brokenness of our system. I think that we have a country that welcomes, and we certainly have a city that welcomes. And that is something that should be applauded and embraced and continue. And I think that at the same time, we're a nation of compassion, but we're also a nation of laws. And I think law without compassion is a blunt instrument that destroys lives. And I think that if we're going to do anything, we need to employ the laws that we have in our city and our nation with a level of compassion and understanding for the circumstances that surround the people that are caught in its crosshairs. And I think that's something that, as a son of a legal immigrant, I certainly appreciated the level of dedication and effort that my mom went through to become a citizen. And I certainly appreciate her having done so, because it's allowed me to live in America, a great country, and to be able to rise to the point of being on a city council, something that may not have happened in Italy. So anyway, thank you. That's my report.
All right, Councilmember Moore.
Thank you so much, Mayor. It is evident to me that we have powerful stories. Each and one of us and every one of us hold those stories, and we cherish them through generations to right now. And I am grateful to my colleagues for discussing a national issue. Not many people think that in local jurisdictions we talk about national issues, but we certainly do. I appreciate what Councilmember Copane just stated in his last part of his segment, that he wouldn't be here if it weren't for his grandparents and family. As some of you guys know, I was adopted from Bulgaria nearly 24 years ago. I lived in an orphanage. I remember going to orphanage, and I remember being told as a kid that when you grow up, you go in the streets, and that's it. I can already catch myself getting emotional because of the fact that I don't ever take it for granted being right here. I take it as a blessing every single day. And I know that this issue has caused headaches. I know that this has been a controversial issue coming from the White House. And I also want to say to people that we are not only a great United States, but we do have to have compassion towards one another and towards the human dignity of one another, and that things will come together. And so I know that there's a lot of things that are in foreplay right now, and so I look forward to seeing there be a solution coming from the White House that's more compassionate. But moving forward with my report, it is, I love the fact that, I'm stepping back and I've kind of listened to a lot of what you guys have been saying in your reports and the public hearing and what's happening from the mayor's office. And we're getting things done. And we're doing it together. And how powerful is it that we're creating that partnership and we're working towards solutions? And as I stated 2 weeks ago, that's what we're all about. We're not here to build dissension. We're not here to build conflicts. We're here to work together to make Federal Way a better city and a stronger city and a unified city. And so I'm proud of the work that again, the mayor's office has been working on, and I'm proud of the work that we've been doing as policy partners with the mayor and and being your partners as well. And so I just want to say thank you for continuously and with compassion and with respect advocating for what is so important to you and, quite frankly, all of us. And so thank you for doing that. It's something that we don't see nowadays. I will say, in my last part of my report, I had the opportunity to sit down with some Boy Scout members, and it's part of their, in order to get to the next rank, they have to meet with city officials and civic people to discuss projects and ideas and concerns. And it is quite fascinating to me that the one issue that I've heard is homelessness. That remains to be an issue. And it's interesting how, some of our Boy Scout members have cleaned up our parks and have found needles and have found things that teenagers, quite frankly, should never find. And it's amazing how intellectual and smart and how quick they get it. And I was very impressed by the Boy Scout member that I met today. And his name, that slips my mind, and let's see. And his name is, I can't find it, but a great student. And the questions that he asked came up with solutions. And I just really sincerely enjoyed that meeting. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I think I'll end my report and go to the next council member.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Duclos.
Thank you very much. First of all, we may be cousins. My grandparents came to this country from Italy, and they brought my father over, who was an infant at the time. So technically, he was an infant, so I'm considered first generation here. But my grandfather instilled a love of this country in me that I will never forget, because he absolutely loved this country. He was able to work here. He was able to buy property here. He had a big farm. He grew apples and oranges and sold them. My grandmother had gardens, and she grew fruit and had a fruit stand that she'd set up on the street corner when people went by, and they'd stop and buy all sorts of things. But I wanted to talk about what council member talked about too, because we have a great history in this country of taking people in, but we also have some rather disturbing things in our history. And in the Times, Sunday Times, they had this section, and it's Media Literacy and Japanese American World War II Incarcerations. And it has a whole story in here about what we did on February 19th. This is the 75th anniversary of the date that we incarcerated Japanese Americans that were living here in Seattle and surrounding areas. We put them not quite in concentration camps like Hitler did, but it was close enough to it. We had them in refugee camps. We took away their businesses, we took away their property, and it was a shameful period for us. And I hope that we don't ever allow that to happen in this country again to any group of people or any religious group of people. And it is true to what we're seeing happening today. I wasn't going to talk about politics, but you brought it up, so it's your fault. It is true. We have to consider that America is made up of people from other countries. The only true Americans here are the Native Americans. The rest of us came here one way or another. And we should be welcoming everyone that wants to come here. We shouldn't be looking at religion. We shouldn't be looking at ethnicity. We shouldn't be looking at sex. We should just be looking at people that will come here and make us a stronger union, like we always have. When we've had new people come, they brought new things for us. We've learned different things, and everything makes us stronger. So if you haven't seen this, I'd encourage you to get a copy of it, because people forget what we have done sometimes in our past that we should not be proud of, and we should never forget. And with that, I will say thank you all and good night.
I do. Councilmember, Deputy Mayor Burbridge.
Thank you. Boy, some very inspiring words from my colleagues on the council. I appreciate you all so much. I'm tempted to go into a couple of stories, but I think I'll save them for another meeting. There's a lodging tax advisory committee retreat coming up the second Wednesday in March, the 8th. And also I want to mention a meeting I attended this morning, the South County Area Transportation Board. And we had some presentations on the Puget Sound Gateway program, which includes the improvements to both Highway 167 and Highway 509. And those highways are connected by I-5, so it'll be interesting to see how this all proceeds. We'll be having some presentations ourselves. I know I've talked with staff about some of this material subsequent to the meeting this morning. We also had a discussion about the legislative agenda for that transportation board and the items that they're putting forward in terms of supporting additional transportation investment in our South King County region. Also, some concerns expressed about the import of the airport expansion, actually doubling in activity in the near future, which will certainly have an impact on our city as well as others. And our city, of course, is taking action to form a committee to pursue this in more detail, along with some of our staff. And additionally, I'll mention a couple of other things. The mayor and Councilmember Kopang also mentioned the Rotary event, which I enjoyed as well a great deal. I did have an additional update on the amount that was raised for the funding item for the backpacks with food for the students. And this afternoon, I was told that actually an updated amount that was raised is $52,000. So even more impressive. So I'm very pleased with that. And additionally, I'll mention an event coming up the Sunday, first Sunday in March, March 5th at 2 p.m. at St. Luke's Lutheran Church. Our Federal Way Symphony has a chamber concert coming up, and Marjorie Kransberg-Talvey will be featured on the violin, William Chapman Nyaho on the piano, and Mara Finkelstein on the cello. They're going to play some Beethoven and some Shostakovich. It should be an outstanding concert, so I encourage you to take that in. And that's my report for this evening. Thank you.
All right, and with that, we are adjourned.